Hey guys, it's Caden. Welcome to another Autism Digest interview, where today we have an extremely talented performer here. He's been in the music industry in Seattle for over 20 years, has released several albums and social justice anthems, and you might remember her for her infamous battle with a country group called Lady Antebellum. She is for real Lady A. Thanks for coming on, Miss A.
Hi, Caden. It's so good to meet you and glad to be here today. Thank you for having me.
Of course, I think a lot of people might remember you. You went viral in the 2020s for the aforementioned Lady Antebellum battle. Oh, but for
Right.
those that may not know you, do you mind starting this off by telling us your story in your own words?
Well, I've been a blues and soul singer for the past 30 plus years. And one day I received a call from Rolling Stone magazine telling me that Lady Antebellum was changing their name to Lady A, which sparked a controversy. Simply for one thing, that was during the George Floyd murders, and a lot of Black and brown bodies were being murdered by police officers in the street. And so their reasoning was that they wanted to change their name because antebellum was pre-Civil War, and you know, really they knew what the name meant when they chose it. So to come and decide to change your name in the wake of the George Floyd murders, to me was it wasn't real. Let's just say that, because I tried to come to some type of I wanted to work it out with them and try to work it so that we both could be Lady A. I could be Lady A, the artist, and they could be Lady A, the band. But they didn't want to do that. So a fight ensued, which I'm happy to say that I've done very well.
I can definitely tell. I highly respect that. And I think honestly, you guys are both equally talented. And so,
But you can't be
highly
you can't be performative when you're trying to tell people that you believe in social justice and the injustices of what was happening at that time. They could have chosen any other name. They could have kept the name they had. They'd been performing like that. But I was Lady A for 30 years before they were even born. So to fight, to continually put up a fight like that really showed their colors. Let's just be honest about it. They weren't, they were trying to do something that was very performative. Let's just say that. And it didn't work out.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Now that you mention it, it's basically a case of big corporations taking advantage of independent artists.
Exactly.
And I'm a guy who regularly listens to music. My next question for you is, have you had any experiences in your performing career interacting with the autism community in any way?
Yes, I have. I have worked with the Delta Music Experience with, excuse me, who worked with autistic artists. So I've had that privilege to be able to work with artists with autism, and I've found it very rewarding. I found it challenging at sometimes, but in learning, we're all artists and we all love music, and I believe that music transcends any type of challenges we all have, because I have challenges of my own. So it's been very rewarding. I also worked in North America with United by Music, in North America and Europe with the European United by Music, which brings autistic folks into the music world. There's an amazing festival in Denmark where I led a gospel concert for autistic artists, and they performed beautifully, 5 different countries. And so I've enjoyed my time, but it's just like working with anybody else for me, because I believe that people who love music just love music.
I absolutely agree. I've interviewed a lot of musicians on here, have the chance to jam with a couple of them, and they all said something similar. Music is honestly for everyone. So I really
Everybody.
like what you said about music
Yeah,
just being music.
yeah, music is just music. There's challenges in music, um, no matter who you are. I face challenges every day, and so I believe that we all work in tandem. We work together. When we get on the stage, it's just music.
Exactly. Which leads to my next question for you. How important is it that we have neurodiversity in music, and what efforts could the music industry take to ensure that neurodivergent voices are heard?
I believe just you have to reach out to people. So I am a teaching artist. So I work with young people from ages 13 on up. Um, and it doesn't matter what background you come from. Like I said, music is music. I think it's important that we as artists, as established artists, reach back and help artists in our community, up and coming artists, even those established artists. I work with Black and brown female artists that don't get the recognition that we should. So there's a challenge there. So working in autism is just the same thing. We just reach across the aisle, and I think that um, that artists, no matter who they are, but if you're an established artist, how important it is to reach out to all types of artists and help them the way you hopefully somebody helped you.
Exactly. I can honestly relate that to my time in high school band. I grew up loving music for the longest time. That love increased when I lived in Tennessee for a couple of years.
Really?
And yes, I am. And for during my high school years, I was an honorary member of a band. You had to fill out the paperwork or whatever in order to get properly involved, in order to earn credit for it. I don't understand why they had to do that. Back in my day, which I can technically say now since I'm 21, you could do band as an after school activity.
Right.
Well, I don't get why they were doing it as a class, but back to the topic, they included me in a couple of their pep rally performances on drums because, as you said, music is music, no matter the background or the process.
Right, and we need to be able to teach one another. I learned something from my students that I have, and working with United by Music when I was working with them here in North America and in Europe, left a profound. It was profound in my heart. I was touched by each and every artist, whether whether you're autistic or whether you're, I don't know, a regular artist. We all have challenges that we deal with, and it's important that we teach one another. So I don't know why you had to fill out paperwork, but we have an after school program here in Seattle. So if you ever get to Seattle, come on by the Rhapsody Project and check us out.
Yeah,
We'd love to have you sit in.
Absolutely, ma'am. My next question for you is, a lot of your lyrics focus on social justice and justice in the African American community. Recently this year, there have been some instances of police brutality within the autism community, many of them making the national news. So my question for you is, how can lyrics and social justice anthems relate to the autism community, and what can we do as a community to make sure those marginalized groups are spotlighted so those incidents never happen again?
Well, sadly, I don't think the incidences will ever stop. I think that bigotry, racism, hatred is a learned behavior. And as long as people keep teaching that behavior, it keeps getting passed down. So the lyrics that I write are not just for the Black community, they're for every marginalized community. Anyone who feels left out or feels that they've been that they have been bullied or hated against. But I have a song called "The Truth Is Loud," and it talks about people who are homeless. It talks about people who are sick. And it talks about the hatred that happens within communities themselves. That song I happen to have written, "The Truth Is Loud," during with my co-writer Roz McCommon. I'm sorry. We wrote that song during Trayvon Martin, during those times. I have a song called God Help Us that was written during the George Floyd murders. So I'm always being conscious about what's going on around in the communities themselves. But I really, as much as I hate to say it, Kaden, hatred, bigotry, none of it is ever going to stop because it is a learned behavior. And until we start teaching our children to behave differently, to behave with kindness and with love and with patience, and I think that we're always going to have this problem. So my suggestion for my communities, for those students that I teach and mentor, to artists across the board that I meet, is always, and even for yourself, I always surround yourself with kindness. Surround yourself with those people who are kind, those people that lift you up, the people that you can lift up, because it's all about us helping one another and encouraging one another. Always. That is a learned behavior. That is something that you can teach somebody else. So I'm hoping that the majority of us are teaching that kindness and that patience and that love and that acceptance. So, until we do that, I think we just, the best thing to do is pray. I'm a praying person, and keep our circle of friends close to us that encourage us, support us, and are like-minded that way. Because the learned behavior of bigotry, that's not going anywhere until people start behaving like human beings. Because we're all the same. We all bleed red. So that's my suggestion.
I really like that answer. I absolutely agree that any form of negativity is a learned behavior in a way.
Right.
I was bullied a lot in high school and middle school, as a lot of individuals are, neurodivergent or not. And looking back at it now, I feel empathy for students because they were young, they didn't know any better. They picked up those behaviors from the parents, most likely.
Exactly.
So I developed a motto. If the parents are nasty and rude and listen to influencers like, say, Charlie Kirk or Kelly or any of the controversial figures of the past few years, then more likely than not, the child is going to pick up those behaviors and mimic the same thing. It's a really scary thing.
But it's not acceptable behavior. I'm much, much older than you. So, when I was growing up, I was bullied because I wore an afro. The first time I wore an afro in school in the 5th grade. There are challenges that my nieces and nephews have to this day. It's a learned behavior that I think that we should all be tired of. The people who are exhibiting this behavior, because there are less of them and more of us who are accepting and kind and patient. And not saying we're always 100%, because we're not. But I think when we stop and look at ourselves, then we can look at ourselves and say, I wouldn't want somebody to treat me that way. So how am I going to show up today? That's,
Exactly.
first thing I say how am I going to show up today? If I'm in a bad mood, how am I going to change my mood before I interact with somebody else? That's something that I practice.
And that's an amazing perspective to have. My parents have that point of view as well.
Yeah.
How are you you want to be treated, and how do you want to go into today?
Yeah. I tell my audiences all the time during my shows. I have a show tonight, but I always tell my audiences, I hope that you don't leave the way you came in. I hope that whatever was on your mind, if you were weighed down or if you were burdened today, or if you just, you came to the show, but, you had something else on your mind. I hope when you leave that something that's been sung, which is why lyrics are important, whether it's spoken word or whether it's singing, lyrics are important. What you say to people as artists, we are responsible. Just like you doing your show. It's important. What you're doing is important. And what you say is important to people because people are watching you. So I tell my students all the time, and it goes for me. How do I show up today? I'm tired. I've been on tour for the last month. Seems like I'm tired today. I had a rehearsal last night, but you know what? I have to show up in a positive light. And so I have to change my mindset before I get in front of people.
Yeah, I really like that perspective. My last question for you is, and you answered this a bunch, but going into detail, what's your advice to anyone, neurodivergent or not, that wants to make it in the music industry?
Surround yourself with people who support you. Find a mentor. Find classes, or because I still take voice lessons. I've been singing for 30 years, and occasionally I go in the studio. I know I've got to go in the studio. I've got to go in and be my best. Be your most authentic self. Always be you, and don't let people change you, because you are enough and you are amazing. So have that confidence in yourself. Don't wait for people to applaud you. Applaud yourself, because you are amazing.
Yeah, man, that's really good advice. Anyways, that's going to do it for this interview, guys. Thank you so much to Lady A for coming on and sharing her perspectives. It's really important that we have these conversations.
Thank you, Caleb, for having me.
If you guys want to see more amazing interviews, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the Autism Digest channel. Stay tuned for our next issue that comes out next month. You can purchase that by going to autismdigest.com. And stay tuned for the audio file of this interview to be posted on our Spotify. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.